and we wanted to show you the fans of what I'm cooking up today. As you guys can go online and see on our forums, like what we are posting up or the typical meals that I would have throughout the day. Now, at first we showed you what I was doing in the off season. Now we're updating it with what I'm currently having throughout the day. Now note that all of these meals can be interchanged depending on how I look and also how I feel, and how I, along with my coach, Hani Rambod, will go back and forth and do some consulting and seeing like what's best throughout the day, in addition to what I'm training. Because sometimes certain meals such as like steak work better for me early in the day as opposed to later on in the day. All right, but as we have right here is the steak. All right, so what I did was I sprayed the pan just with some canola oil. Use this seasoning right here, just use some Greek seasoning. And what I do is basically I broil it. I just moved into this home and I don't have a grill yet. So it is on its way. But until then, I actually do broil it in this oven right here. And I would like to be able to put this thing on, but as you can see, I can't even fit it. All right, I'm not gonna use an OJ reference. I'm not. But look how funny this looks. I'm like waving at your ass. So anyway, what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to put this in here without burning my damn mitts off. So throw this in here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let that cook for around 3 to 5 minutes, and then I'm gonna flip it and do another 3 to 5 minutes. And then, as they say, dinner is served. So what I have over here is my rice cooker. A lot of people have one of these. This is no secret in the bodybuilding world. If you don't have a rice cooker, I suggest you actually get one, and get one that I would say is not your typical small one that's like $10 at the store that gets water and crap everywhere, because it has a spout here and it'll just create a huge mess. When it comes to home appliances, I always believe that when you're using it, and especially as a bodybuilder, you're going to be cooking roughly around 800 to 1,000 meals during one prep. One prep that lasts up to 3-4 months. So within that time period, you'll have your Foreman grills, you'll have your rice cookers, you'll have all your Calphalon stuff. That takes a beating. So when it comes to like a rice cooker, I mean, you know, you spend like 30, 50 bucks on something like this, it'll actually last throughout the whole prep. What I've been able to do is it has different settings on here. I have it on white rice. I'm not currently eating brown rice. We'll get into that later on in the next few weeks. But for right now, I'm doing the white rice. So I'll usually cook what I need to eat throughout the day. I preferably like doing that with my carbs, just so I don't have leftovers of like day-old rice and pastas and potatoes and stuff like that. I just be honest with you guys, I freaking despise leftovers. I just can't have it. And I've obviously been spoiled being able to cook for myself or have Cherie cook for me for all this time. But yeah, some of the other fixings I actually put on there, I use minced onions. That is actually something that I use not just with steaks, but also with ground beef. I also use it with ground chicken and ground turkey. What I've noticed is that it gives it some decent flavor. And as you guys know, when you're getting ready for competition, or if you're just trying to just diet, you got to break up the monotony of just the same old chicken and rice or this, that, and the other. And you got to have different flavorings. So I use those. I also use different types of chili powder and different types of non-MSG seasonings. Usually like the Montreal steak seasoning that we get over at like a Costco, or you know, something from Lowry's always works out well too. This right here, grapeseed oil. A lot of people cook with olive oil. I've noticed that it becomes rancid under certain measurements of heat. So you don't want that. I also noticed that with grapeseed oil, it doesn't do it as bad, but also it's good, you know, good healthy fats for you. I've actually, every time I talk, I start realizing that some of this stuff might get taken the wrong way, but I actually could use this as a opposing oil if I really wanted to, because it gives you a nice glaze and you end up smelling like grapeseed oil. But I actually did use this at a guest posting. I can't remember where. Probably was here in Colorado back in like '06. I didn't have any muscle sheen or anything like that. So I was like, well, I could use this. It works out. Oh, good for my skin. All right, good. Let's roll with it. So you can eat with it. You can drizzle this like on your pasta or whatever. You can cook with it, obviously, and you can wear it. So how about that? Over here, oh, that's Cherie's meal. She's got quinoa and also grilled chicken breast. She's actually on her diet right now too. She has been extremely supportive of what I've got going on, and I think that's very, very valuable. I might have just fucked up this damn steak, by the way, guys. So let's see if I did or not. Nope, I think we actually did okay. I'd be one upset dude if that would have happened. But she's been, like I said before, she's been extremely supportive of my bodybuilding career. And with that said, she actually wants to get in the mood of like summer training and diet as well. And guys, when you have a significant other that's willing to do that for you, you really have to show some appreciation, because when you're competing and they're not, they're just doing this because they like it and they want to be supportive of you. That's hard, okay? And it's also hard for those people because they probably do want to cheat on a diet, whereas you can't, and they probably don't want to eat really bad things in front of you because they feel like they're not being supportive. So after the diet is over, really, really show some greater appreciation, not just ongoing, but then thereafter, because they need to know that you value their commitment with you. Now I'm gonna go ahead and grab a fork and knife. And see what this is looking like. All right, so now I can flip that over. Yep, so perfect. I did not burn it, which was fantastic. So, I can go back here. Oops. Come on. No, I don't need help. I need help with getting better oven mitts. These oven mitts are for freaking, like, well, I was gonna say a midget, but then they're really there for you. So, I can't even put my freaking hand in this. What? Yeah. I feel like Johnny Cochran. Look at this shit.
Well, we have the...
No, look. It's like, the fuck is this? This is crazy. I can whip you with it, I guess.
That's why you got black.
Why is it black, though? I'm just playing. So anyway, I'm going to let that sit for, what, babe, another 3 to 5 minutes? It looks rare.
Keep it open.
Keep it open?
Yeah, and then it'll just get...
Oh, okay. Brown and crispy. Okay. See, you guys thought that I knew all this shit. I didn't know how to really broil this stuff. She did. But she's like just not wanting to be in here today. She's been ripping and running around town and taking care of yours truly. But, a lot of errands get done throughout the day. Cherie handles all those things in addition to helping me with my schedule, which I tend not to follow because I'm stubborn and very overwhelmed with all the daily tasks. But we get it done. So your food is actually ready.
Cool.
Would you like for me to grab it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, did I flip the meat?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I did. See, I need your hands. You have like those hairdresser hands.
I have the hands that...
Like I can't hand like hot stuff with my hands, man. Like this is like burning ass hot. Like
You're okay.
I'm all right.
Yep.
So Right now, proteins that I'm doing right now, ground turkey breast. Starting off with like 93% lean, and then I'll usually mix that with some 99%. The reason being is because when I'm doing strictly 99%, when I start a prep, it's extremely hard to get that food down. And the last thing I want to do is like have to put mounds and mounds of mustard and things like that just to get it down. Now, I know you guys have watched various other athletes, and especially guys like 8-time Michelin Olympia Ronnie Coleman diet. Now, what I will say is that Ronnie Coleman, one of my favorite athletes, not just bodybuilders, did his diet and this and that and the other. But one of the problems that we watching it have is that he could put different condiments on his food. So like ketchup and barbecue sauce. We already know this stuff, right? Do not do that shit because you don't have the same genetics and work ethic as Ronnie Coleman. You don't have the same DNA. So even for me, like at the beginning of a prep, I start 15 weeks out, I can get away with like different condiments too, but as it gets around, we're approaching 11 weeks. I can't have ketchup. I can't have condiments that have sugar in it. You really have to be mindful of that and start maybe not just dropping it cold turkey because it's very, very difficult, but being mindful because those are just extra calories, especially sugar calories that you do not need. That comes with everything, like putting sugar in your coffee, doing, just sweets in general. And that's where competitive bodybuilding and competitive, like even dieting, suck because you're eating, I'm going to eat around 5 pounds of protein today and 3 pounds of carbs today, pretty much. And that's a lot of food. And drink, a couple gallons of water and all sorts of stuff. To do that with very little seasoning or heavy seasoning, but then expecting you not want to crave sugar is extremely, very difficult. So what we've tried to implement is good, healthy practices, knowing that everything we have in this house as of right now is pretty much sugar-free. And I don't like sugar substitutes very often because I do recognize that it could actually create a disturbance in your digestion. I know like with xylitol, malitol, all that different stuff it would always make me sick like over periods of time. So even like chewing massive amounts of gum and things like that, like I always feel like when you're dieting and you're craving sugar, there's two things that you get, or well, one major thing you're gonna get to curb that craving. It's your supplements, people. Your protein shakes, your pre, intra, and post-workout drinks have sugar in it. They may say that it only has like, a gram or here and there, but it's sweet, right? So look at that as like, oh, that's my treat for the day. It's kind of hard and messed up, but you have to remind yourself that when I'm eating for purpose. When I'm training for purpose. And that's really what we got going on here. Food prep is huge. You can spend hundreds of dollars a week, either hiring someone to do it for you or go to the grocery store cooking it for yourself. For those people that are stick and move type of people, like I would definitely suggest hiring a food prep company, but be aware and be cognizant of the fact that their quality may not be as good. And what I mean by that is you need to figure out like where they're getting their chicken and fish and everything from. If they're getting it from the grocery store, you could probably go get it yourself. So be considerate of that, and so you're not wasting your money. Other things like Tupperware dishes, stuff like that, we're all trying to figure out easier ways to make our lives better, but it's all the same. It's all relative. I'm not really doing anything better than anyone else. I'm just being very consistent, and I know that what I'm eating actually has a direct purpose on how I'm supposed to feel and how I'm supposed to look. I'm doing this steak primarily because my body functions better off of red meat than probably other people do. And that's just something I've learned for all the years of bodybuilding. What I want to encourage you guys to do is during your off season, this is especially important for those novices getting into competitive bodybuilding, is you treat your off season to learn what combinations of proteins, carbs, fats work best for you. So then when you do decide to do a show, you already know that, well, I can't have chicken breast. Maybe I'm allergic to it, or I work better off of white fish, or why am I, when I eat salmon, I get stronger, or when I eat red potatoes as opposed to grits, you know, I feel fatigued. I don't know what this is, but you can actually chart all these different things going on throughout 6 to 9 months out of the year. And then for those 3 to 4 months you actually train, you already have the blueprint for your own success. So I really encourage you guys to not just focus on pre-contest, but also your off season. So I'm freaking starving right now. I'm sure you are too, huh?
I have fish and quinoa.
Oh, that was fish? I thought it was chicken.
Lovely fish.
See, even Cherie likes fish.
You gotta broil it, guys, so it tastes good.
What, the steak or the fish?
Fish, everything.
Oh, the fish?
Yeah. Go ahead and grab a plate. I just want to let it rest. I always recommend putting your meat aside to let it rest a little while. Otherwise, when you dig into it right away, it's going to taste like beef jerky. So go ahead and just sit it there. That's good.
See how,
Be careful with that.
yeah, exactly.
You burn your nice, perfect skin and muscles.
What else was I gonna add? Well, obviously hydration. One of the things I've realized as I've gotten a little bit smarter about this is everybody will say like, okay, drink X amount of ounces per day of water. Now, what I've learned is, for me, I always go by 1 ounce for every pound of body weight. So if I'm weighing 275 pounds, then I'm gonna get 270 ounces of water, so over 2 gallons a day. Having that gallon jug with you and just pounding that gallon at the gym isn't gonna be good enough. What you need to do is, for let's just say for a 200-pound male, you're gonna say 200 ounces. I'm gonna break this up. I'm gonna grab like a glass or a mug in my house that's like 20 ounces or 20 to 25 ounces, and just refill that like every 2 hours. And then what's happening is that your body's utilizing the water and then processing all the nutrients correctly. So what I've learned is, before I used to just pound water, right? And then you're like, oh yeah, you know, and I know we're talking about food here, but, and this may sound gross, but you know, you're like, oh, my urine is clear, so like everything is good. I'm hydrated, everything's fine. Well, take this method that I'm sharing with you and split that up into servings, and you'll get the same 2 gallons and your urine won't be clear. Why is that? Well, I mean, you're obviously not getting an influx of water. So what I'm trying to get across to you is that throughout the day, you always need to be sipping on water. You always need to be drinking water. So that you always do stay hydrated, and that you can process these types of hefty meals throughout the day. Not to mention your multivitamins, all your caplets and tablets you have to take throughout the day, and especially, people, your sports nutrition supplements. I don't care who you are. If you're taking anything that has the word pre-workout or post-workout and you're not taking in enough water, you're gonna get dehydrated, and it's gonna make you do a number of things. One, it's gonna decrease your muscle pumps, and we all wanna get those gains, right? So we wanna be able to feel something. Number 2 is gonna make you irritable. Anyone that's dehydrated is gonna become very, very irritable. And number 3, outside of just the digestion of different foods, I would say that in my life, I've noticed that when I'm really dehydrated and I've got dehydration going and I'm ingesting supplements and this and that and the other, I can actually tear a muscle. Why? Because your body's not hydrated enough. But yet you're pressing as hard as you can, and what's happening is you're creating more dilation of the muscles and this and that, but there's no more water to pull from. So it's pulling from everywhere, right? Where you're gonna cramp up somewhere and you're gonna probably tear something. And last thing you wanna do is do that. So we wanna really be aware of this. Everything, like I said, everything we do has purpose. Whether you're eating or drinking, whatever you're doing that. So I am going to grab some carbs for this. And actually, no, what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna weigh this. I'm gonna weigh it out. And I wanna see The rice isn't ready, so I might do pasta instead. Yeah, I know. Pasta's made, right? Yep, so grab that. Okay. So what I have right here, guys, is food scale. I think we talked about this before. I think it's a valuable component to your diet needs. This one in particular, if you set up codes that come with the instruction booklet, you can actually type it in, and what you put in it will actually give you not just the weight, but then the macros as well. I don't do that because I already kind of know what I need. It's usually 8 to 10 ounces of anything. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in here. I'm gonna load this up and then heat this up real quick. And by that time, steak should be ready. And then I'll be ready to get my grub on. I just put it for 2 minutes, but it probably doesn't need all that time. I think. So I ended up buying this at the store the other day. It's actually not bad. It only has like 2 grams of carbs and 2 grams of sugar for a half an ounce. So if I'm just like putting just a little bit on there, that's fine. If I'm like doing all this, it's a problem. But for right now, I'm gonna use it. What I'm also gonna do is get another fork, start cutting into the steak. So as you guys know on the Gift Channel, what we've done is we wrote out everything for you, the fans, so you know like how much food you're supposed to, or how much food I'm actually taking in. For a steak meal, I'm usually getting a good 10 ounces of cooked weight. So that's why we're always looking for a lean cut, because the last thing we want to do is say, oh yeah, this is 10 ounces, but then you're trimming off like 3 ounces of fat on it and you're not getting all the protein you need. So that would not get things done. So I kind of have an idea as to go about this. I'm gonna open this up. All right. Then I'm gonna take a little bit of this. Some grapeseed oil on that. And then now, come on. Please tell me I didn't break this thing already. All right. Okay, now I need to clear it. Okay, so what's this? All right, and this one right here. 10.5 ounces, so we're good to go. All right, so there you have it. That's my meal that I'm gonna have here right now. And this, I'll just save that for later. Sometimes also, guys, I may do like a meal with steak and chicken. Good combination of both. Sometimes because of the fact that to ingest like 2 to 3 steak meals a day is a lot of action with your digestive system. So sometimes you want to split that up, just because you're gradually getting into it. What I'll normally do is I'm usually shooting for a couple steak meals a day, but depending on how I'm feeling, how I'm looking, throughout the prep, I may decrease it down to 1 and then decrease it down just to half. Anytime when Hani takes my red meat away, I cry like a little bitch. So we try to keep it in as much as possible. But what we try to do is throw in different types of proteins too, like white fish and stuff like that. And you know, with the white fish, it works out really good too because you can eat more of it because it's very, very light and it assimilates very, very fast. And in turn, the more protein you can get in, we already know that more gains you're going to get, all this other stuff, especially when you're training this way and doing cardio and all that. Now, a lot of people, it's funny because when I do this at restaurants and actually cut all my meat first before I eat, people are like, why do you do that? Like you're a little kid or something. I'm like, no, it's not that. It's the fact that when I do get to eating, my head probably ain't going to come up. So I don't want to spend time eating and then relaxing. Because as you guys know, that when I'm doing this, the time is ticking to when my next meal has to be prepared. And that's part of the craziest part about the prep is when you don't cook everything, when you cook everything individually, it does take up a lot of your day. So sometimes at least having your carbs made in advance helps, especially for those people that have trainers, because mine will literally call me up and say, hey, what are you eating right now? And I'll say, hey, some steak and pasta. And he's like, all right, throw that shit out. I'm going to have you do steak and sweet potato. And I'm like, what? And it makes it very difficult. I was just telling them about how like when Hani will call up and throw an audible in.
Oh, yeah.
He'd be like, oh, yeah, you're having steak and potato, and then now you're going to have steak and rice. And you're like,
Well, that it doesn't bother me when we're home, but it bothers me when we're Saturday before the Olympics, Friday. Or how about when I figure out I got everything on Sunday before you come in on Monday for the week, and then he calls me and tells me to go find some random potato or something that he thought of. And
a little while.
Go to 4 different Whole Foods.
Yep. So the last thing I'll use,
Fun.
so the last thing I'll use too is the sea salt. For obvious reasons, I definitely want to keep that high. It helps. Anytime you're doing like extremely amounts of low sodium, that's usually during like the last couple weeks of prep. And we'll get into that as the prep goes. But for right now, I'm definitely having no shortage of sodium at this time. So I like this type of sea salt. You can get your Himalayan, you know, the pink kind and stuff like that too. But I just literally take like that much, and then I'll just sprinkle it around like this, and there we have it.